Most games released by indie publisher Ratalaika are existing PC games, which they have ported to other platforms. It's worked well for them for the last few years, giving original developers new markets for their games, while Ratalaika handle all the porting work. Peasant Knight, released in March 2019, is different. Instead of releasing his game initially through Steam, the developer 4AM Games released Peasant Knight through indie platform itch.io before approaching Ratalaika. The Spanish publisher then helped assist with the game's release on Steam, as well as porting it to the PS Vita, PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. An unusual move for the company. They obviously saw something special in the game that made them want to handle more than the usual for the release. But what was it? Stripped down to basics, Peasant Knight is a 2D puzzle platform game with 8-bit aesthetics. Story-wise, you take on the role of the downtrodden, weaponless but extremely heroic protagonist, who is on a quest to rid the land of an evil wizard. Unlike traditional platform games where you move throughout all levels collecting objects for points, avoiding all manner of creatures or obstacles as you head towards the goal at the end of each stage, or having pretty much full control of your character, Peasant Knight takes a very different approach. Your character is moving continually and you have just two controls at your command: jump and stop. You need lightning reactions and precision timings to be able to get around each level and traverse all the obstacles in your path to reach the portal at the end of each of the game's 80 levels. To help you along the way, there are lifts, transporter portals, and other devices to aid your movement. But you have to be cautious of all other creatures, traps, and other hazards that lie in wait. If that wasn't bad enough, you're up against the clock on every level, so there's no time to wait around. The gameplay mechanics for Peasant Knight are incredibly simple, and that's what makes the game so compelling. With just 2 buttons for the game, it makes it very easy to pick up and play. That doesn't mean that it's easy to master though. While the early stages are straightforward platform levels, puzzle elements are introduced later on. As such, you'll soon be thankful for the unlimited lives at your disposal. Lose a life and the level restarts ready for you to try over and over again. This is probably even more critical when you encounter the bosses that appear throughout the game. This simplicity is what really keeps the game fun and addictive. Throughout play, you don't have to focus on how to control the game. All you have to do is focus on working out how to solve the puzzles, navigating the platforms, and just enjoying the game, making it a delight to play. In that sense, it was quite reminiscent of a lot of endless runners, and does explain why many are so popular, stripping games back to the bare essentials of what makes them fun and addictive. Peasant Knight has an 8-bit look to it. It seems as if most indie developers these days try to go for 8-bit and 16-bit style visuals and sound for their games. This is no exception, and it's very reminiscent of games seen in the 80s but with a modern soundtrack. I have to admit that while I used to get quite excited about retro visuals in games, now I'm somewhat apathetic towards them. While simplistic pixel graphics can work extremely well when the game's style or design calls for it, I don't really feel that it adds anything to most games, and in the case of some can detract from it. In the case of Peasant Knight, the retro look just left me feeling a little indifferent to it. Now for this review, I looked specifically at the PS Vita version. While all the versions of the game are generally the same, with the exception of multiplayer modes on the console versions, which is missing from the handheld release, there was one thing I did want to say specifically regarding both PlayStation versions. That was trophy support. Normally I don't mention trophies when I review PS Vita games. To be honest, it's one aspect of PlayStation gaming that doesn't really appeal to me. Peasant Knight is a trophy hunter's dream though. There are 17 trophies in total, including an all-important platinum. They're relatively easy to get, and you'll have about 90% completed within your first hour of play, and the remainder shouldn't take much longer. In fact, a full trophy set can be achieved without completing the game, so it's a cheap way for anyone to boost your trophy set if it's something that does bother the Vita and PS4 collectors out there. It has to be said that Peasant Knight isn't the largest game to come from Ratalaika. It's a fun distraction for a while, and it's a novel twist on the puzzle platform genre, but it is short-lived. With only 80 levels, it's a game that you'll complete within a couple of days of casual play, and then find yourself unlikely to return to. I mentioned the trophies earlier for a reason. Usually these can be something to add replay value, but in this case they're all obtained during regular play, so you can't amass new trophies on replaying the game. So essentially, once you've finished the game, you're done with it. Because of that, once you've played through Peasant Knight once, you're unlikely to load it up again. Saying that, it is one of the cheaper of the games coming from Ratalaika, coming in at just £2.49 for all the versions, so it's not a game that will break the bank, and even more so for PlayStation owners who get the PS4 and PS Vita versions as cross-buy. It's a fun and mildly challenging game that will keep you coming back for one more go until you have it beaten, and it's still a steal at the price. Our rating is coming up.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the like button and leave us a comment below. Also, spare a moment to share this video on Twitter, Facebook, and all your social media pages. To get updates on all of our latest videos delivered straight to your inbox, subscribe now using the link on the screen.